Sam Bradford comes out 2017 to start the season and goes absolutely bananas against the New Orleans Saints, throws all over them, has one of his best career games, if not his best. And then he is hurt on a non-contact injury, the worst kind for quarterbacks we're discovering. And
quarterbacks on this team.
And since then, he played one game for the Vikings in Chicago, in which I will always say he should not have been playing at all.
Should never have been on the field.
He went to the Cardinals last year. He couldn't move, and he didn't play very well at all. And I think Sam Bradford's career is probably over now. Just 2 years separated from this incredible game in New Orleans. Now, the question at hand is, if he never got hurt, where would we be right now? If Sam Bradford had played out the 2017 season, and that would mean what for the Vikings? Because his contract was up after that. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't necessarily mean he would have signed it. So where do you want to begin with this question?
I want to begin with the Saints in that matchup, because I think he probably could have been as good that second meeting, going the divisional championship game, if not better. Because Case had a lot of shaky moments in that second game in January. To me, that's the biggest, what you're looking at here with Case Keenum and Sam Bradford. When healthy, which we don't have, I agree, they don't have a big sample size with it. When healthy, Sam Bradford is one of the most accurate passers in the NFL. He's got an arm that is unworldly. I think he really would have been, and that Saints defense got so much better as the year went on. You remember what happened to them early on in that first game? I mean, he carved them up. He carved that secondary, and I think that as good as they got towards the end of the season, it probably would have been the same result.
So let me go back even before that. So you think that they still go to Philadelphia and lose?
I do.
Especially because Philadelphia had a crazy run from Nick Foles there, and the Vikings defense didn't stop them at all.
I don't think it's 38-7. Because I think they probably wouldn't have been able to score more, but I do think that they still would have lost.
I remember that day because Bradford came back and was the backup for that day, that I wondered if they would run him out for the second half against Philadelphia. Like, the guy's got a big arm, and maybe if anybody can throw us back into this game, it's Sam Bradford, but they decided to stick with Keenum, and that did not work out very well at all. But I want to go back to just even what you think the record would have been, because they finished 13-3, and throughout that season, there was a narrative that the Vikings almost got lucky that Case Keenum was better than Sam Bradford, but that they would have not won 13 games with Bradford because he wasn't of the same leadership caliber as Case Keenum, and also wasn't really willing to take a lot of risks. I think there were similarities between Bradford 2016 and Kirk Cousins of last year, of lots of short passes, not many risks. And even though the offensive line was better in 2017, I thought Case Keenum made up for that a lot by being able to escape. And instead of losing the close games like they did in 2016, they won close games in 2017. How about down in Atlanta, where Keenum didn't play very well, but found a way to win 14-9. I mean, it wasn't entirely just defense doing it. They had a legitimately effective and efficient passing game with Case Keenum. I'm wondering if you think that they win 13 games with Sam Bradford.
I mean, they could, but going back to like philosophy and the way that this offense would have looked, I mean, look what he did in 2016. He set the completion percentage highest mark that season. It's all checkdowns. I mean, isn't that where he got his name, Checkdown Sam, from? From that season specifically.
He's on the TV right now. Look at this. How weird is that? He just got sacked on TV. Well, the last highlight.
Leonard Floyd.
Yeah, the last highlight was him getting sacked on TV.
That was not a good game.
I have that happen all the time where I'm talking about someone. The other day, I'm sorry for this, I mentioned Levon Hernandez as a total random at a conversation at lunch with someone, and I'm not kidding. Levon Hernandez popped up as part of some compilation. How weird is that?
Was it Levon Hernandez with the Twins?
It was not. It was
with the Marlins?
It was with I think the Nationals.
Oh, okay.
He played for almost everyone.
Say it in. Do it again.
The Giants.
Sheldon Richardson. Oh, there he is. No, okay, I cheated.
Anyways.
I'm sorry for that interruption.
That's okay.
How many times does this happen? It's crazy.
Well, I think with Sam Bradford, like, there was just never the consistency factor that was there was a very boring, bland, vanilla offense. And if he was still the quarterback now, would that have changed? I think honestly he probably would have done better under John DeFilippo than Kirk did.
I agree with that.
I don't think that. I think that would have been a much more seamless marriage, just because Shermer and DeFilippo had a lot of the same. I mean, truly, they came from very similar systems, and I think that within the adaptability factor and just Sam's longevity of how many teams he's played for, let's put played in air quotes just because of the injuries. I think he would have been a better fit for what he wanted to do with such a heavy passing attack.
But do you think that in 2017 they still end up in the NFC Championship? Because I go back and forth on this. I mean, Case Keenum, for whatever reason, gelled so perfectly with Pat Shurmur, but he also had this relationship with Diggs and Thielen. Not that other quarterbacks haven't, but it was different. Mm-hmm. It was like he was willing to throw it up to them and let them make plays, and Thielen and Diggs were tops in contested catches that year. And he had this sort of risk-taking, gunslinging, run-around type of thing that he did, which we know that in the NFL that always has a shelf life if that's how you're going to try to win. But it came out still as 13-3 and NFC Championship for Case. And with Reef and Remmers at tackle, and then Rashad Hill really for half the season, and other injuries that happened throughout that year. I think Danny Isidora ended up playing at one point. Case kind of covered up for that. I was watching, for no reason whatsoever, their game in London against Cleveland not too long ago. And Cleveland was getting penetration on that offensive line with no problem. And Case Keenum was running around and making plays. And he did that on a number of occasions.
That touchdown at the back of the end zone to Thielen. Perfect example of
that.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And that's just not a Sam Bradford thing. And I think that they're still in the playoffs for sure. Maybe even win a playoff game. I could bet on that with the number one defense in the NFL. With Sam Bradford, I'm not sure they go 13-3 though. I don't know if that happens.
I think they can still make the NFC Championship. I do. I don't know if 13-3 gets you there. I don't know if you need to have that. But to me, overall, the difference between them, Keenum could go off script in ways that Sam could not. And that's not just the knee injury. That's not just how stiff he sometimes looked back there in the pocket. But Bradford could make throws that Keenum couldn't even dream of. And I think that Mike Zimmer would have much rather had, if you're just looking at it on paper, I mean, that's his type of quarterback. That's very much like Teddy, in terms of how conservative he played the game and surgical precision with how he threw the ball. And that's where I draw the line. I just don't know. With someone like Sam Bradford, is his career really over? It could be. Otherwise, there's no team's going to ever pay him what he was paid at other parts of his career. I mean, the guy made $120 million, something north of that, for playing 2 healthy seasons. And so I don't know what the Vikings would have given him. Had he stayed healthy, is he here on a short-term deal? Is it a 3-year extension? I don't think he was ever going to be the franchise quarterback that maybe he could have been elsewhere with the Rams, maybe.